First contact. The massive Zorgan warship emerged from hyperspace like a predatory beast awakening from slumber, its obsidian hull absorbing what little starlight reached this remote corner of the galaxy. Commander Kraz stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the blue-green planet spinning lazily below. Earth. The latest target in the Zorgan Empire's relentless expansion. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, reported his science officer, mandibles clicking in anticipation. The dominant species appears to be in a pre-space development phase. Their most advanced weapons are crude nuclear devices. No significant orbital defenses detected. Kraz's lip curled in contempt. Another primitive world ripe for conquest. The humans would make excellent slaves, once properly subjugated. Those who survived the invasion, at least. Prepare the first wave, he ordered. Standard conquest protocol. Target their primary military installations and government centers. Let's give them a proper introduction to their new masters. As drop ships began launching from the warship's hangars, carrying the first battalion of Zorgan shock troops, Kraz allowed himself a moment of reflection. In his 3 centuries of military service, he had overseen the conquest of 17 worlds. Some had fallen within hours, their inhabitants throwing down their weapons and accepting Zorgan rule rather than face annihilation. Others had fought back, lasting days or even weeks before their inevitable defeat. But none had truly challenged the might of the Empire. The Zorgons were the apex predators of the galaxy, blessed by evolution with regenerative abilities, natural armor, and savage fighting instincts. Their technology was centuries beyond most species they encountered. Victory was always assured. The first reports from the surface began streaming in. The human military bases were crumbling under the Zorgan assault. Their primitive projectile weapons barely scratched the invaders' armor. Their aircraft were swatted from the sky like insects. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Then something unexpected happened. Commander. His communications officer's voice carried an unfamiliar note of concern. We're getting distress calls from Alpha Squad. They've suffered heavy casualties in one of the human population centers. Kraz's head snapped around. Impossible. Show me. The tactical display materialized, showing footage from a helmet camera. A squad of Zorgan warriors was engaged in close combat with human defenders in the ruins of a city. The humans were using the urban terrain to their advantage, striking from concealment and falling back before the Zorgans could bring their superior weapons to bear. One particularly bold human charged directly at a Zorgan soldier, diving under its plasma fire and jamming some kind of explosive device into a gap in its armor. The resulting detonation turned the mighty warrior into scattered chunks of flesh and armor. Clever vermin, Kraz muttered. He had not expected such tactical adaptability from a primitive species. No matter. They would learn the price of resistance soon enough. But as the hours turned to days, and days to weeks, the human resistance only grew stronger. They seemed to be learning and adapting at an astonishing rate, developing new weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter Zorgan advantages. Their guerrilla attacks were taking a mounting toll on the invasion forces. In a secure bunker beneath the ruins of Washington, D.C., Dr. Elena Nakamura hunched over her microscope, studying tissue samples taken from fallen Zorgan warriors. The alien cells were fascinating, complex structures unlike anything in Earth's biosphere. Their regenerative capabilities were particularly remarkable. But every biological system had its vulnerabilities, if you knew where to look. Dr. Nakamura. One of her assistants burst into the lab, clutching a tablet. You need to see this. The latest genetic analysis results just came in. Elena grabbed the tablet, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the data. There, hidden in the complexity of Zorgan DNA, was something extraordinary. Something that might just give humanity a fighting chance. Get me General Chen, she ordered. And tell him to bring his strategic planning team. I think I've found their weakness. Meanwhile, in orbit, Commander Kraz was facing mounting pressure from Imperial High Command. The conquest of Earth was taking far too long. Resources were being depleted at an alarming rate. Worse, news of the humans' fierce resistance was spreading through the Empire, inspiring whispers of doubt about Zorgan supremacy. Perhaps we should consider more extreme measures, suggested his second-in-command. The planet's biosphere is expendable. We could deploy the entropy weapons. Kraz considered the option. The entropy weapons would reduce Earth's surface to a lifeless wasteland, eliminating all resistance in one devastating strike. But something held him back. These humans, there was something different about them. Their resourcefulness, their adaptability, their sheer tenacity in the face of overwhelming odds. They were worthy opponents, in their own primitive way. No, he decided. We will crush them properly, in ground combat. Let the galaxy see that even the most determined resistance cannot stand against Zorgan might. It would prove to be a fatal mistake. In her lab, Dr. Nakamura worked through another sleepless night, refining her bioweapon design. The Zorgan regenerative ability that made them nearly immortal on the battlefield had an unexpected vulnerability. Their cells required precise chemical signals to coordinate the healing process. Disrupt those signals, and their greatest strength could become their greatest weakness. The first prototype was ready for testing within days. A captured Zorgan warrior was exposed to the engineered virus. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then its regenerative system began to malfunction catastrophically. Instead of healing damage, the warrior's cells began to break down. Within hours, it was dead. It works, Elena whispered, exhaustion and triumph warring in her voice. God help me, it works. As production of the bioweapon ramped up in secure facilities around the globe, the tide of war began to turn. Zorgan warriors who had seemed invincible now faced an invisible enemy they couldn't regenerate from. Their numbers began to dwindle. For the first time in living memory, the Empire knew fear. Kraz watched with growing horror as reports of entire battalions succumbing to the human bioweapon filled his screens. His own scientists were working frantically to develop a countermeasure, but the humans had struck at a fundamental weakness in Zorgan biology. There would be no quick solution. Commander, his tactical officer's voice was grim. We've lost contact with the Eastern Seaboard Invasion Force. The humans are pushing back our defensive lines on all continents. At current attrition rates, we'll be combat ineffective within 2 weeks. Kraz's claws dug into the armrests of his command chair. In all his centuries of service, he had never faced such a situation. The mighty Zorgan Empire was losing a war to a pre-space civilization. It was unthinkable. Impossible. And yet. Send word to High Command, he ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. All available ships. We will not be defeated by these primitives. But in his hearts, Kraz knew the truth. The humans had already proven themselves far from primitive. They were something new. Something dangerous. And the galaxy would never be the same. The counterstrike. The reinforcements arrived 3 days later, the largest Zorgan battle fleet ever assembled in one system. Hundreds of warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons charged and ready. Kraz felt a surge of pride at the display of imperial might. Surely now the humans would understand the futility of resistance. But the humans had been preparing for this moment. Hidden bases on Mars and Luna, constructed in secret during the early days of the invasion, launched swarms of nuclear-tipped missiles. The crude weapons would have been easily intercepted under normal circumstances, but the humans had learned. Each missile was accompanied by thousands of decoys, overwhelming the Zorgan defense systems. Dozens of ships vanished in nuclear fireballs before they could raise their shields. The survivors scattered, their formation broken, and that's when the real attack began. Strike teams of human special forces, using captured and modified Zorgan technology, teleported directly onto the enemy vessels. They carried Dr. Nakamura's bioweapon in aerosol form, releasing it into the ship's ventilation systems. Entire crews began to die as their own regenerative abilities turned against them. Elena watched the battle unfold from a hardened command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Tactical displays showed Zorgan ships dying by the dozens, their crews succumbing to her creation. She felt no triumph, only a deep sadness at the necessity of such wholesale slaughter. The bioweapon is proving even more effective in enclosed spaces, reported one of her analysts. Casualty rates approaching 100% on affected ships. Elena nodded grimly. What about mutation rates? Any sign of adaptation or resistance? None so far. The targeting is too precise. Their biology can't evolve a defense fast enough. It was the key insight that had led to the bioweapon's development. The Zorgans' regenerative abilities, refined over millions of years of evolution, were actually too perfect. They had eliminated the natural genetic variation that might have allowed some individuals to survive the targeted attack. In orbit, Kraz watched in horror as his mighty fleet was decimated by an enemy they had so gravely underestimated. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. His own ship had been sealed off from the others to prevent spread of the bioweapon, but he knew it was only a matter of time. Sir, his tactical officer's voice was heavy with defeat. Imperial High Command is ordering a full retreat. All surviving ships are to withdraw immediately. For the first time in the history of the Empire, the Zorgans were running away. But the humans weren't finished. As the Zorgan fleet tried to disengage, a new weapon revealed itself. Massive electromagnetic pulse generators, built in secret beneath the lunar surface, activated simultaneously. The coordinated burst overwhelmed even Zorgan shielding technology, leaving the ships dead in space. What followed was not a battle, but a massacre. Human strike teams methodically cleared ship after ship, releasing the bioweapon and executing any survivors. Some Zorgan warriors fought to the last, refusing to accept defeat at the hands of primitives. Others begged for mercy, offering surrender. They received none. After centuries of Zorgan brutality across the galaxy, humanity had learned to be ruthless. Kraz stood on his bridge, watching the systematic destruction of everything he had ever believed in. The Zorgans were supposed to be invincible. They were supposed to be the ultimate expression of evolution's drive toward perfection. How had it all gone so wrong? The answer came to him in his final moments, as human commandos breached the bridge. The Zorgans had achieved physical perfection, yes. But in doing so, they had stagnated. They had stopped adapting, stopped evolving. The humans, with all their apparent weaknesses, had never stopped changing, never stopped finding new ways to survive and win. As the bioweapon mist filled his lungs, Kraz managed a final, bitter laugh. The ultimate predators of the galaxy had just become prey to a species they had dismissed as primitive. The irony was exquisite. In the aftermath of the space battle, humanity's victory was complete but not without cost. Millions had died in the initial invasion. Cities lay in ruins. The environment had suffered severe damage from weapons never meant to be used in Earth's biosphere. But there were unexpected benefits as well. Captured Zorgan technology accelerated human development by centuries. The threat of alien invasion had united humanity as never before, erasing old divisions and rivalries. And the galaxy had learned a profound lesson about underestimating the human spirit. Dr. Nakamura spent the following months studying the long-term effects of her bioweapon, ensuring it wouldn't spread beyond its intended targets. The Zorgan biological samples provided insights that would revolutionize human medicine. Their regenerative abilities, once understood, could be adapted to heal rather than harm. "We should destroy it," she announced one day, presenting her findings to the United Earth Council. "The bioweapon, all research related to it. It's too dangerous to keep." The council chambers erupted in protest. The weapon was humanity's greatest defense against future threats. It had saved Earth from conquest. How could they give up such power? Elena stood firm. The Zorgons became monsters because they believed their power made them invincible. If we keep this weapon, if we let ourselves rely on it, we risk becoming exactly what we fought against. The debate raged for weeks, but in the end, wisdom prevailed. The bioweapon was destroyed, its formula locked away in the most secure vaults on Earth. Humanity would defend itself with courage and innovation, not weapons of mass extinction. As Earth rebuilt, stories of the war spread across the galaxy. Tales of human ingenuity and determination reached worlds the Zorgons had conquered generations ago. Slowly at first, then with growing confidence, these subjugated species began to resist their oppressors. The Zorgan Empire, already reeling from its losses at Earth, found itself fighting rebellion after rebellion. Without their aura of invincibility, their hold on power crumbled. Within a decade, the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia ceased to exist. Humanity emerged from its trial by fire changed but not broken. The species that had been dismissed as primitive now stood as a beacon of hope to oppressed civilizations across the galaxy. Earth's universities began accepting students from other worlds, sharing knowledge and culture. Trade routes were established. Diplomatic relations flourished. But they never forgot the lessons of the Zorgan War. Humanity maintained its military readiness even as it pursued peace. Research continued into defensive technologies and tactical innovations. Most importantly, they remembered that their greatest strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to face impossible odds with unwavering determination. The galaxy would never again mistake physical might for true power. The age of the Predator was over. The age of humanity had begun. Rise of the Alliance. 5 years after the Zorgan defeat, humanity's first diplomatic vessel, the UES Prometheus, approached the crystalline spires of Centauri Prime. The planet's native species, the Lumini, had suffered under Zorgan occupation for 3 centuries. Now they watched with mixed fear and hope as another spacefaring race sought contact. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, remembering her days as a guerrilla commander during the Earth invasion. The scars on her face, resistant to even advanced medical treatment, served as a constant reminder of those desperate times. But today's mission was about building bridges, not burning them. "They're hailing us," her communications officer reported. The Lumini ambassador appeared on the main screen, his crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that their translators were still learning to interpret. "Children of Earth," he began, "your victory over the Zorgons has become legend. But why have you come to our world?" Maya stepped forward. "We come offering partnership, not conquest. Earth leads a growing alliance of free worlds. We bring technology, protection, and most importantly, the knowledge of how to resist oppression." The Lumini had good reason to be suspicious. The last outsiders who came promising friendship had enslaved their people. But humanity's actions spoke louder than words. Within weeks, Earth medical teams were treating injuries that had never properly healed under Zorgan rule. Engineering corps helped rebuild destroyed infrastructure. Most importantly, human military advisors began training Lumini defense forces. Dr. Elena Nakamura, now serving as Earth's chief ambassador for interspecies relations, worked tirelessly to understand and preserve Lumini culture. Her experience developing the weapon that ended the Zorgan threat had taught her the importance of using knowledge to heal rather than harm. "Your people's resistance techniques," a Lumini elder said during one cultural exchange, "they are unlike anything we've seen. The Zorgans called you primitive, yet you defeated them through innovation." Elena smiled. "Humanity's greatest strength is our diversity of thought. We don't seek a single perfect solution, but rather thousands of imperfect ones that work together. It's why the Zorgans couldn't adapt to our tactics." The alliance grew rapidly. The Duranii, master engineers whose works had been stolen and perverted by the Zorgans, joined after seeing humanity's ethical approach to technological development. The warrior clans of Proxima, impressed by Earth's military prowess, pledged their legendary fighting forces to the Alliance. But not all species welcomed humanity's rising influence. The Shadowkin, ancient rivals of the Zorgons who had maintained an uneasy neutrality for millennia, saw an opportunity in the power vacuum. Their bioengineered armies began probing Alliance borders, testing defenses and responses. On a remote mining colony, Maya Chen faced this new threat firsthand. The Shadowkin attack came without warning, their phase-shifted troops bypassing standard defenses. But humanity had learned well from the Zorgan War. Every colony had contingency plans, every citizen knew how to resist. Maya organized the miners into resistance cells, using the very tactics that had proved so effective against the Zorgons. The Shadowkin, expecting easy prey, found themselves trapped in a maze of ambushes and counterattacks. By the time Alliance reinforcements arrived, the invasion force had been decimated. The Shadowkin commander, captured during the fighting, expressed disbelief. "You were supposed to be weakened by the war with the Zorgons. How can you still fight with such effectiveness?" Maya's response was simple, because we never stopped learning, never stopped preparing. Humanity doesn't rely on overwhelming force or superior biology. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome. The failed invasion marked a turning point. The Shadowkin, realizing that humanity's victory over the Zorgons was no fluke, retreated to their traditional territories. The Alliance had proved itself capable of defending its members without resorting to the brutality that had characterized Zorgan rule. On Earth, the United Council debated the next phase of expansion. Some advocated for a more aggressive approach, arguing that humanity should fill the power vacuum left by the Zorgons. Others, led by Elena Nakamura, pushed for continued focus on diplomatic and cultural exchange. "We defeated the Zorgons not just through military might," Elena argued, "but by being fundamentally different from them. If we attempt to replace their empire with our own, we become what we fought against." The debate was settled by the arrival of refugees from the Galactic Core. Species that had never known freedom under Zorgan rule were seeking guidance in self-governance. The Alliance found itself teaching the very principles of democracy and self-determination that humanity had refined over centuries of struggle. Training centers were established throughout Alliance space. The Lumini taught their crystalline engineering techniques. Duranii shared their advanced energy manipulation theories. Human instructors passed on the lessons of resistance and adaptation that had proved so crucial in the Zorgan War. But perhaps the most profound changes were cultural. Interspecies marriages became common. New art forms emerged, blending diverse traditions. Scientific collaboration led to breakthroughs that would have been impossible for any single species working alone. The Alliance was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history, a true melting pot of species and cultures, united not by force or fear, but by shared values and mutual respect. Maya Chen, watching alien and human children playing together in a newly established colony, reflected on how far they'd come. "We didn't just survive the Zorgons," she told Elena during a rare quiet moment. "We showed the galaxy a better way to live." Elena nodded, thinking of the countless lives lost in the war. "And that's why we can never forget what brought us here. The moment we become comfortable, the moment we stop adapting and learning, is the moment we risk becoming what we defeated." As if to underscore her words, long-range sensors detected unusual activity at the edge of known space. Something was stirring in the darkness between the stars, something that would test the Alliance in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The legacy of the Zorgan War was about to face its greatest challenge. Echoes of the past. The anomaly appeared without warning at the edge of Alliance space. Long-range sensors registered it as a massive tear in the fabric of spacetime, unlike anything encountered before. As Alliance scientists struggled to understand the phenomenon, something emerged from the rift that chilled the blood of every species that remembered the Zorgan War. A ship of Zorgan design, but far more advanced than anything seen during the Earth invasion. Admiral Maya Chen, now commander of the Alliance's Rapid Response Fleet, received the first reports with growing concern. Configuration analysis confirms it's definitely Zorgan, her tactical officer reported, but the technology appears to be centuries ahead of their known capabilities. The truth, when it emerged, was more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The ship hadn't come from some hidden Zorgan stronghold, it had come from the past. From the height of the Zorgan Empire, thousands of years before their defeat on Earth. Dr. Elena Nakamura, studying the sensor data in her laboratory on Centauri Prime, made the connection first. The temporal signatures are unmistakable, she explained to the Alliance Council. When we destroyed their fleet over Earth, the massive energy release must have created a temporal instability. We didn't just defeat the Zorgons in our time, we accidentally sent a warning to their past. The implications were staggering. The Zorgan Empire at its height had been far more powerful than the force humanity had faced. And now they were coming, armed with foreknowledge of their future defeat and a burning desire to prevent it. The first attack came at Dawn Colony, a joint human-Lumini settlement on the Outer Rim. The advanced Zorgan warship appeared suddenly, its weapon systems bypassing shields that had been designed based on later Zorgan technology. The colony's destruction was total, its population of 50,000 vaporized in seconds. But the Alliance had learned from history. Within hours of the attack, every colony and member world began implementing contingency plans developed in the years since the Earth War. The lessons of resistance and adaptation that humanity had taught the galaxy were about to face their ultimate test. Elena found herself working around the clock with a team of multi-species scientists, trying to understand the temporal mechanics at play. If we can determine how they're traveling through time, she theorized, we might be able to stop them from arriving in the first place. Meanwhile, Maya led the military response, coordinating with forces from every Alliance species. The Duranii contributed their advanced shield technology, the Lumini their crystal-based sensor arrays, and humanity provided the tactical expertise that had proved so devastating against the later Zorgons. The second attack targeted Earth itself, but this time the Alliance was ready. As the ancient Zorgan vessel emerged from hyperspace, it found itself facing not just human defenses, but a combined fleet representing every member of the Alliance. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Zorgan ship's advanced technology gave it a significant advantage, but it faced something its creators had never encountered in their own time, a unified galaxy fighting with humanity's innovative tactics. Duranii shield matrices adapted to the enemy weapons. Lumini crystals detected and tracked their cloaking technology. And human special forces, using techniques refined since the First War, managed to board the vessel. What they found inside changed everything. The ship's crew weren't just Zorgons, they were hybrid creatures, twisted combinations of Zorgan biology and mechanical augmentation. The Empire, facing the prospect of its future defeat, had begun modifying its own people in desperate attempts to become truly invincible. They're making the same mistake again, Elena realized, studying the recovered genetic data. They're trying to achieve perfection through force, through biological enhancement. But they're only making themselves more rigid, less adaptable. The captured ship's database revealed the full scope of the threat. The Zorgan Empire, upon receiving warning of its future fall, had launched a massive temporal warfare program. They weren't just sending ships to the future, they were attempting to change history itself, to prevent Earth from ever developing the strength to resist them. The Alliance found itself fighting a war across time itself. Temporal incursions had to be detected and countered. Historical moments had to be protected. The very fabric of causality was at stake. But even as the situation seemed most dire, humanity's greatest strength once again proved decisive. While the Zorgons sought to perfect themselves through technology and genetic engineering, the Alliance pursued a different path. Every failed attack, every thwarted incursion, provided new data, new opportunities to learn and adapt. Elena's team made the crucial breakthrough during the third month of temporal warfare. The Zorgons are using their own biological energy to power their time jumps, she explained to the Alliance Council. Their regenerative abilities, amplified by their cybernetic enhancements, provide the massive energy needed for temporal displacement. But that same connection makes them vulnerable. Working with Duranii energy specialists and Lumini crystallographers, Elena developed a weapon that could disrupt the temporal field generated by the enhanced Zorgons. When the next attack came, the Alliance was ready. The battle over Mars became the turning point. As the Zorgan temporal fleet emerged, Alliance ships deployed Elena's disruption weapon. The effect was catastrophic, for the Zorgons. Their temporal fields collapsed, trapping them in the present. More importantly, the feedback surge traveled back through time, following their own temporal wake. In the ancient past, the Zorgan Empire's temporal research facilities exploded simultaneously. Their attempt to change history had become a self-fulfilling prophecy, weakening them at the height of their power and setting in motion the very events they had tried to prevent. The threat wasn't over, temporal echoes and anomalies would take years to clean up. But the Alliance had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger. The galaxy had proven that unity, adaptability, and cooperation were more powerful than any attempt at engineered perfection. As the temporal storm subsided, Elena found Maya standing at a viewport, watching the cleanup of temporal debris around Mars. "Do you think they'll try again?" the Admiral asked. "Send another warning to their past?" Elena shook her head. "They can't. The temporal disruption we caused has essentially quarantined their entire civilization from time travel. They'll have to face their future the same way we do, one day at a time. The legacy of the Zorgan Wars, both of them, would be studied for generations. But the lesson was clear, the future belonged not to those who tried to control it through force, but to those who were willing to face it together, ready to adapt, learn, and grow stronger through unity rather than dominance. Legacy of the Stars. 20 years after the Temporal War, humanity and its allies faced an unprecedented discovery. Deep space probes detected massive engineering structures in a previously unexplored sector of the galaxy. The constructions bore distinct Zorgan signatures, but carbon dating revealed they were over 10,000 years old, far predating any known Zorgan civilization. Admiral Maya Chen, now bearing the distinguished grey of a veteran commander, led the first expedition to investigate. The UES Defiant, accompanied by ships from every Alliance species, approached the ancient megastructures with careful precision. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported her Duranii science officer. "These installations appear to be some kind of temporal research facility, but the technology is beyond anything we've encountered." Elena Nakamura, monitoring the expedition from the newly established Temporal Sciences Institute on Earth, recognized the implications immediately. "These aren't just old Zorgan ruins," she announced to the assembled Alliance Council. "They're from an alternate timeline, one where the Zorgans actually succeeded in perfecting time travel. The structures were vast repositories of knowledge, left behind by a version of the Zorgan Empire that had mastered temporal mechanics. But rather than weapons or tools of conquest, the facilities contained warnings. The alternate Zorgans had discovered something catastrophic about the nature of time itself. As Alliance researchers decoded the ancient data banks, a chilling truth emerged. The universe had natural temporal immune systems. Any civilization that achieved mastery over time eventually triggered a cosmic correction, a cascade of temporal events that would erase that civilization from existence. The alternate Zorgans had discovered this too late, leaving behind these structures as a warning to future species before they were wiped from reality. The knowledge transformed the Alliance's understanding of their recent victory. The temporal war hadn't been won through superior technology or tactics alone, the very fabric of reality had conspired to prevent the Zorgans from achieving temporal dominance. But the repositories contained more than warnings. They held the accumulated knowledge of countless alternate timelines, each offering unique insights into science, culture, and the fundamental nature of existence. The Alliance found itself with access to technologies and discoveries that would have taken millennia to develop independently. Elena led the effort to safely implement these discoveries, remembering the lessons of both Zorgan wars. We don't seek mastery over time, she insisted, but understanding. The moment we try to control it is the moment we risk everything. The greatest revelation came from studying the temporal mechanics themselves. The universe, it seemed, had a natural tendency toward diversity and adaptation. Species that tried to achieve perfection through force or technological enhancement inevitably failed. Those that embraced change and cooperation survived and thrived. Maya, exploring one of the massive structures, found something that brought tears to her eyes. A recording, left by an alternate version of herself, speaking to future explorers. If you're seeing this, you've chosen a different path than the Zorgons. You've learned to work together, to adapt rather than dominate. Hold on to that truth. It's the key to survival in a universe that demands evolution over perfection. The implications extended far beyond military or scientific concerns. The Alliance began incorporating these lessons into every aspect of civilization. Education systems encouraged creative thinking over rote learning. Governance structures evolved to embrace change rather than resist it. Even architecture and art reflected this new understanding, creating spaces and works that could grow and adapt over time. But the greatest change came in how the Alliance viewed its role in the galaxy. Rather than seeing themselves as successors to the Zorgan Empire or guardians of fixed order, they became facilitators of natural evolution and growth. Contact with primitive species was no longer about uplifting them to Alliance standards, but about helping them find their own path forward. The Alliance learned to recognize and nurture the unique strengths each civilization possessed, understanding that diversity itself was a defense against extinction. Elena, in what would become her final address to the Alliance Council, summed up humanity's journey from primitive targets to galactic leaders. The Zorgons saw the universe as something to be conquered and controlled. We see it as something to be explored and understood. They sought to perfect themselves through force. We perfect ourselves by embracing imperfection, by remaining adaptable, by working together across species and cultures. This is not weakness, it is the deepest kind of strength. The ancient repositories became known as the libraries of time, centers of learning where species from across the galaxy could study the infinite possibilities of existence. But unlike the Zorgons, who hoarded knowledge as a source of power, the Alliance shared these discoveries freely, understanding that universal advancement required universal participation. Maya Chen retired from active service but continued to teach at the Alliance Military Academy, passing on the lessons learned through 2 wars with the Zorgons. Remember, she would tell her students, we didn't win because we were stronger or smarter. We won because we were willing to change, to learn, to work together. That's the real victory, not defeating the Zorgons, but becoming something better than they ever imagined possible. The galaxy entered a new age of exploration and discovery. The Alliance expanded not through conquest but through invitation, each new member bringing unique perspectives and abilities to the growing civilization. The Zorgons became a distant memory, their empire serving as a reminder of the path not taken. And somewhere in the vast depths of space, other civilizations were emerging, facing their own challenges and choices. When they finally reached for the stars, they would find not an empire built on force and fear, but an alliance built on cooperation and growth, living proof that the universe favors those who embrace change over those who resist it. The legacy of humanity's victory over the Zorgons would echo through time not as a tale of military triumph, but as the moment when the galaxy learned a better way to exist. In defeating the ultimate predators, humanity had helped create something far more powerful than any empire, a future where strength came from unity, where power came from adaptation, and where every species had the chance to become something greater than itself.